Hey everyone, we're going to go over the potential army list that might be in the game for Norsca. They're going to have to dig in pretty deep for a lot of old books in order to get information about the armies here. One that I think will definitely be in the game, they're called the Bearmen of Urslo. Now, they're a mercenary raider group that you could find in the Dogs of War book for Warhammer Fantasy, and they're led by a chieftain called Bjorg Bearstruck, and he's a mighty champion of chaos, and they're kind of bestial in their nature. I feel like they'll definitely be in the game for sure. They're pretty famous, and I think a lot of people know about them, which is why, again, I think they'll be in the game. We're going to have kind of a murder Viking theme going on here. Keep in mind, the many tribes up north are surrounded by a lot of volatile creatures of chaos. I mean, just because that they all follow chaos doesn't mean that they do not fight at all. Then, let's go over the Tome of Corruption, which is a Warhammer Fantasy RPG book, which I'm sure they'll draw from as well if they're able to. So you have the bondsmen. The bondsmen are fellow warriors who serve a jarl. They live in the jarl's house, they eat the jarl's food, and they are gifted weapons and armor by the jarl. So we'll probably see a lot of the bondsmen. Then you have marauders, who we already know about because they're in the game. Then you have reavers, who are elite mariners. They are pirates. These are the guys who have opted to choose to live a life of piracy. So they're going to be all out there trying to find whatever they can in terms of loot. Then you have whalers, and whalers are, well, people who whale. They're going to be hunting down all of that stuff, but their function in the game will be throwing javelins. They'll probably be a new skirmishing group. That's probably going to be their role. Then you have Dark Souls, and Dark Souls are individuals who have given up their soul completely for demonic powers, and they're really kind of a, I don't really want to call a vague unit, but they're not really a commonly known unit from what I understand. So whether or not they'll be in the game, I'm not too sure, but there is some likelihood. They are a possessed human, and they have a lot of powers. Then from the third army book, you have bondsmen archers, and they're just your basic archer units. Then you have bonds dwarves, which means that you could have a Norscan dwarf warrior fighting for you, which to me is very cool. You have dwarf berserkers and troll slayers, which is the Norscan dwarf variant of slayers. And of course, you've got your dwarf berserkers too. So I'm wondering if they'll add a little bit of that, because there are Norse dwarves, and that would be cool if they added that in, because the name is Norsca. So I'm hoping that will compromise all of Norsca and not just actual tribes here. There's a lot of other tribes too that are in the game, so I'm hoping that maybe they'll be in. So if you want to go even deeper, there's a Citadel Journal number 6, where we have the Ulf Werinar, and these are men who are able to turn into wolves during battle. And that would be really cool. The utility from that alone would be huge in a battle. Imagine having a unit that can turn into a type of mounted unit at the drop of a hat. That would be, again, very powerful. They already have a wolf unit, which you can see in a little video back here. So we know that that's going to be in the game. Then you have thralls, and these are captured warriors armed with slings, and they might be in the game. Again, another skirmishing unit. I don't know if they need more, but that could definitely be one of them. Then you have huskarls, who are noble elite soldiers. And of course, I feel like they'll be in the game because, again, we're going for that murder Viking theme. And I've seen a few tweets by some of the guys who work at CA saying, yeah, murder Vikings. And so I'm really thinking that we'll see a lot of those units in the game too. I don't think I'm wrong about that. Then you have berserkers, who of course are warriors who go into a frenzy during battle. They'll probably be very fragile. They'll probably be very vulnerable to ranged attacks. But again, just very deadly in what they're able to do. Whether or not they'll have armor piercing depends on their weaponry, but I could see them being a armor piercing unit that you use to flank with. That to me seems kind of likely. Then you just have generic hunters, and they are ambush type of soldiers. They could have the capability to, like, maybe, let's say, move through snow without being seen. That would be cool. That would add a lot more variety to the Norskins. I feel like they're going to have a lot of these units in the game because they need units to differentiate from the Warriors of Chaos, who are just a lot more in your face, beat you up type of units. The Norskins are too, but they're still going to hunt. They're still going to fight the way that they like to fight, which is going to be through ambushing and all of that. They're going to use a bit of cunning to actually get straight to you. Then you have Beastmasters, and these are warriors who are able to train warriors. And so I'm thinking that that's where we'll have some of our wolves, maybe. I'm sure the wolves will probably be in their own packs, but it would be cool to actually have that type of group where they could release the hounds like they could in Rome 1. That would be very, very cool. Then you have a war mammoth, and those are mighty majestic creatures up north, and those are going to be everywhere. We'll probably even have a few variants with that. If you go to Citadel Journal number 7, you have one with a battle tower. You have one with a bolt thrower, which is a dwarf variant of a war mammoth. And they're probably going to be a cornerstone of the armies too. I mean, that really is probably the premier epic unit for the Norskins. So we'll definitely have them in the game. Bears are potentially trained by the Beastmasters. And then you have dire wolves too. But yeah, we could potentially have bears, which would be great. I would love to see bears in the game. Not only that, bears are frightening. And that will kind of tie in with what we'll be seeing for Kislev at a later point. I was really thinking that maybe we would see a Norsca DLC in a third game. But again, I'm supposing they're wanting to spice up the old world just a little bit. So it's very cool that they have that in. I mean, they already have the factions in the game, so they might as well be fleshed out a little bit more. I'm still holding out with hope that maybe we'll see a Talea, Border Princess, Estalia DLC, because they do have a lot of variety. And if there's any variety, it should be added into the game. We need Tomb Kings, we need the freaking Ogre Kingdoms, who are hilariously amusing. They would be a lot of fun to have in the game as well. There's so much that they could add to this game. It's just, I guess, really a factor of whether or not they see it profitable or not to add it into the game. But there's an endless amount of units and lords and agents or whatever that they want that they could add it into the game. My dream too is that one day they'll balance the single player separately from the multiplayer. That way, it'll just be better off for everyone. There's a lot more work involved. And again, there's a profit motive there. Is it worthwhile for the company to do it? People will still buy it, people will still play it, but I think in terms of enjoyment long term, it'll be so much better, especially if they wanted to push the multiplayer scene a lot more. It's really if they want to push that type of scene so much more via streaming or whatever else. I mean, people still play it, but that would go a long way in helping people play multiplayer a lot more, is if you had balance for each individual one. That way single player wouldn't be the same as multiplayer and people could be happy on both ends. Anyway, now from Citadel Journal number 7, you've got Valkyries, who are female warriors, and they could potentially be in the game. Will they? I don't actually know. I mean, it's a possibility, but I'm not too sure. And then you have the Marauders of Skeggi, who will definitely be in the game, I think. Only because that is a settlement of Norsemen who live over in Lustria. All right? So that is actually going to tie into the Lizardmen and all of that. I wonder if there will be a focus on them potentially. But these are warriors who ride cold ones, which is very cool. And that, again, would be amazing. Especially if it was like a regional unit that you could unlock, but they don't really do too many regional units here. Even though I'm personally a fan of that. That requires you to own certain locations in order to extract a certain type of warrior or resource from that location, which to me adds in a lot more strategic layers to the campaign map. And I do miss that. You had it over in Shogun too, which meant that you had to conquer certain locations, which again, I thought was pretty cool. So I like that idea quite a bit. But those are kind of some of the units that might be in the game. Whether or not they will, I'm really not too sure. You can let me know what you think about it, whether you think they will be or not. Anyway, leave a like down below if you want me to go into more details, show pictures, even make a lore video and talk more about lore. I can definitely do any of that. Thank you for watching, and I do hope that you enjoyed this video. So, as always, until then.